Okay, folks, I want you to now stay with me. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. Two in particular that happened recently. You do not know these individuals. I will not disclose them under any circumstances. But I want you just to go along with my narration and think about the kind of mind we've got here. Two gentlemen came to see me. They wanted to discuss different changes in Medicare for senior citizens. One was about 60, and the other was perhaps 35. He was an apprentice. This was his mentor. He was learning the ropes by traveling with him. And so the gentleman, the older gentleman who was taking the lead, explained to me the benefits and so on, and actually saying you get full coverage, but it'll be even cheaper. I thought that was rather strange, but anyway. In the meantime, they were asking me questions. Some were very formal, have you had pancreatic cancer, or have you had, this? And I said, no. And then he would casually ask a few other non-formal questions, and I contributed. And they were curious to know what I do. I said, well, I loaf. I said, well, I write and I teach occasionally. I explore. I have fun. And how long have you been doing this lifestyle? I said, as long as I can remember. I told them I lived overseas for a number of years. They were curious, why did you bother to go overseas? We got everything here. I said, well, I like to expand my horizons, and it was mainly for education and research. Oh, what do you research? The human potential. They look at me now the sort of, we gotta. I said, what fascinates me, and it's my passion, is to understand human nature in all its potentials. And so I like to explore people who have gone beyond the conventional life. For example, and I described in some of the yogis over in the Himalayas, well, the younger guy got excited. The older guy kind of, oh boy. He said, when's the last time you saw a doctor? I said, about 55 years ago. Oh. And when was the last drug you taken? I can't even remember. I don't like drugs. Why should I take toxics? Ingredient. I prefer homeopathy. Suddenly the old guy's face opened up a little. Homeopathy? Yes. Well, that's what my wife's interested in. Go on. Yes, she's been involved for a number of years. And do you know, this homeopathy, and immediately he threw it away. But I knew there was going to be more coming. I really paid attention to it. Watched his demeanor, his tone of voice, everything about him. He says, well, I once had a headache, and my wife said, don't take an aspirin, come here. And she smeared some oil on my forehead. Do you know it went away instantly? But that homeopathy. So he derided it again. And then he admitted on 3 occasions he had serious ailments. And to please his wife, he first took homeopathy rather than go to the doctor, and each time the ailment went away. But he kept deriding homeopathy. He considered it superstitious. And then I looked at him, I got his attention, I said, how much proof do you need? How much proof do you need? And he backed off, he wouldn't answer me. He made fun of his wife. He made fun of this particular tradition, even though it healed him on every occasion. And his wife apparently has been very successful with the relatives and the families, neighbors, and everybody else. But he kept deriding and demeaning it. Again, what kind of mind? What's his problem? Another mind. Got a phone call from an old fella I hadn't seen in a number of years. He wanted to talk to me because he had an experience. He said, I would like your take on it. I said, come on over. He's a biologist, a researcher. And he resigned his jobs because he refused to put prostate cancer into dogs. He said, I'll work with rodents, but I will not do it to dogs. He's very fond of dogs. So he had to retire from that job. His uncle died of prostate cancer. And about a week later, he had a dream in which his uncle appeared to him in vivid technicolor. And he was startled. And I asked him, what did the uncle look like in the dream? He said, he was just radiant with energy. He says, that's to tell you, don't worry about it. And I explained to him, I said, I have friends who have died, and I've asked them always to come back and visit me, and they do. They never tell me when, but they do, usually within a few weeks. Because we really don't die, the body does. He was listening avidly. And I said, you have a spirit that's immortal. The reason your uncle came back, because he loves you, and he knows you love him. And there's a close bond there that'll never die. So he was to reassure you everything was okay. He seemed to like that. And then he said, the week that my uncle was in his last days, an owl showed up on the porch. Big one, wide wingspan. Oh, I see. Was that just an incident? No, he came back every night. Every night, yes. And we would just sit there and stare at each other. He wouldn't fly away. And I'd go out, he lives on the outskirts of South St. Paul. It was a little more rustic, got a few forests down there. And I'd go out in the field, and there he'd be flying down. And he'd be watching me from the fence. And I said, does he still do it now? Yes. He says, well, my friend, because of your respect for animals and your fondness for your dog and others, the animal world has decided they selected you. He looked at me, what do you mean? Your owl is your talisman. Really? Yep. You didn't choose the owl chose you. And the owl's your teacher. He was startled. I said, if you want to know more about them, sit down. You know how to meditate. Go inside and picture the owl at the space between your two eyebrows and talk to him. Ask him any question and just be quiet and watch what happens. He was ecstatic when he felt so at ease because this had been troubling him. And it was just like, oh, this makes so much sense given what his proclivities and his interests were. So, he was back. The first man, even though reality went up and pinched him right in the nose, he couldn't accept it. Even though he benefited, he couldn't accept it. The other man was awed. Two different minds. Sometimes we get so caught up in our concerns, our worries perhaps, our agendas, our projects. We kind of put everything else to the margin. Sometimes we don't even see what's there that could actually help us in our intense efforts. And that's where your practice comes in. There's a beautiful metaphor in one of the Upanishads about the two birds, both sitting on the branch. Crows, I'm sure. And one was, looking down, seeing cherries on the trees, flying down, picking a cherry, coming back, and noticing little bugs down there and helping them on to their liberation. And just noticing everything, and the other bird was just sitting quietly, very tranquil, observing everything. It's not whether we're either or, we're both. And the gift of life is to contact both. Our one friend, he's beginning to get in touch with nature. Nature is beckoning him. The owl appears regularly now at his home. The other gentleman is on, he's got his serious agenda, he's doing his work properly, he's responsible, but something's missing. He can't handle things that don't work out in his worldview. That's what happened to Swamiji at Meninger. They all walked away. He was there for days, showing them, look, what you're capable of. And they all pulled back. Some of them made fun of him. I don't understand this myself. I can see it, I know it happens, I can describe it like you can too, but I can't understand it. Is there a fear? What are you going to lose? Look what you can gain. Why not at least test it? Probe. What would happen if? That natural curiosity that we all are born with. Another friend of mine, third mind. I'm not getting anywhere in my meditation. I hear that all. No, I know. I feel embarrassed to tell you, Swami, but I said, you do it every day? Yeah, but nothing's working. Oh, I see. But the other day I noticed when I was thinking about something, I instantly got to the conclusion without even reasoning to it. No. Yeah, that's kind of happening more and more lately over the strangest topics I start thinking about, and suddenly I can just see clearly, right? So swiftly, I hardly reason to things. No. Do you suppose there might be a connection between your lousy practice and this? Couldn't be. And then I said to him, look, what you will yield from your practice, you will never see right away. It's not evident. It shows up in other corners of your life. What do you mean? Well, people usually expect too much when they meditate. They got to get to samadhi. Tonight is it. Or I've got to be, so serene. I transcend all the sounds of the neighborhood. The cars, the creaking of the house, the dog barking down the block. And I look at my watch, 4 minutes. And then I'm chasing thoughts all over the place. But you sit out, don't you? You stay there. He said, yes, okay, just keep staying. Because underneath all that turmoil, something else is happening you don't know about. What do you mean? Well, in that amazing dynamics of your mind, see, you're starting to touch that other bird. And he's watching you struggle on the limb, but he's encouraging you. He's whispering to you, but you don't always hear him because you're so busy struggling and expecting so many things to happen. But when you leave with that addition that he's just given you. And that's why you're starting to see things in your other fields of endeavor with a clarity and a precision and arriving at the resolution a lot faster than you used to with less effort. It's paying off that way. And there's an old law, cause and effect. Sometimes it's called karma. You may have heard of it. What you do with sincerity always has a reward that comes to you, whether you like it or not. It'll come to you. You can't lose it. You can't give it up. It just comes to you. And that's a universal. There's no exception to that, to the best of my knowledge. So again, another mind who's has the normal struggles that we all do when we get into the practice, proceed, and we think after a couple of years we're not making any progress. That's what you think. The very fact that you show up is amazing in today's day and age. The very fact that you're willing to put your mind into a certain set is truly astounding in this day and age. Everything has to continue trimming. Nature does it all the time. Because in trimming, you're ripening and getting stronger. Like the oak tree. She has to wait 50 years before she can birth that first acorn. Imagine. 50 years of ripening. So all of nature is a symbol telling us about ourselves. And if you sit there and just gaze and just be in the presence of that energy, which is intelligible, it will speak to you just like the animals do. They want to communicate because they're part of you. We're just a different species, as they call it. And we do run into the minds that are somewhat stiff, a little unbending. Hey, we've been there. That's why we can recognize it. Mm-hmm. But you know, by your ambiance, by being the humane person you are in their presence, they'll remember that. Now he's going to tell somebody, you know, I met this guy. He's been in the Himalayas. He knows people that are 150 years old. They're going to, what? Nobody's going to believe him, of course. They'll laugh, but it's stuck. And the younger guy, he might even be back. You never can tell, you know. You are always revealing your essence by your presence. You're touching. And you're enhancing the environment, and the environment is saying, oh, we got a live one, let's enhance her. And that to me is part of the enjoyment of being in our manifestation. We have that inner witness with a crow that watches and observes an invincible, nothing can touch it. And then we're the other side too, engaged. We need both. We're not hermits. As I say, my favorite phrase, you don't buy real estate in the Himalayas when you join our tradition. You get involved in the world. Each of you have your own ways, your own interests, science, business, academic, homemaking, whatever. And you combine many of them. You don't have to worry about, are you doing all right? As long as you're enjoying life, then you're doing all right. And as I say, if you want to grow more in meditation, be more aware of life. If you want to be more aware of life, be more aware of meditation. They go back and forth. They feed into each other. You will all get there. He told me so. He doesn't fit. In our tradition, you're in the final furlough. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. He told me that one day. I was so startled. What? He said, I don't take beginners. I take those only who've been on the way in our tradition. That's what I look for. And that's why I want you to continue. I will send you those who need to hear what the sages would like to share. Don't worry about it. Just show up and do your work.